let's just jump into it today. I have 3 shows to talk about, and I haven't even started looking through Week 3's material yet. So I gotta get through all the shows and then start on Week 3's material, because Week 4, is 2 days from now. But first, I remembered one of the Instagram posts I was gonna talk about last time. So, it was an Instagram post with, once again, a survey, a study, some sort of data collection where I don't know the source of. So I don't know if I completely buy this. It was just a post saying, another study shows that women these days find rounder, not as in shape guys more attractive, anywhere from like the age of, 24 to 27. Hey, I'm in that age range, and I clearly am not in shape. I don't see anyone attracted to me. I think I know what the issue is. I'm not tall. And when I saw that post, I'm just like, don't do that. Don't give me hope. Anyways, I had another strange dream. Man, what a surprise. This guy had another strange dream. Actually, I had 2. I had the first one quite a while ago. In one of my dreams, I was running my own game store. I had my own gaming store. And someone came in, and it was actually someone I knew from my past. We were friends long ago. We don't talk a lot these days. We don't really talk anymore. Every now and then, we'll hit each other up. So it was a old friend of mine who, not gonna lie, looking back, my parents more than likely thought he was a bad influence, because he absolutely was. He came into my store, but he looked different. His face was the same, but he was, at least from my dream, shorter and thinner. That's obviously not the case these days. He is much taller and much bigger than me, with muscles, I mean. So he came into my store, and he asked me for assistance with the capsule machine. In my dream, I started to recognize him, but I didn't go like, hey, do I know you? Dude, is that you? You look so different. I didn't do that, so I just kept it professional in my dream. So, in my dream, he did something kind of like, can I give you the money, like the $2 coin? Can I give you the $2 to spin this? And you just pull one out for me? I'm just like, what do you mean? He basically wanted me to open it. Open the capsule, like the machine itself. He gives me the money, and I reach my hand in and just pull a random one out for him. Even in my dream, I'm thinking like, but that's kind of the whole point of the machine. You could just do it yourself. But then I'm like, fine, whatever. So I took the money, I opened the capsule machine, I shoved my hand in there and just pulled out a random one for him. That's pretty much my whole dream. I had another dream last night, and can you believe I got jump scared in my own dream? So, I don't remember all the details about my dream last night. Something, I met some sort of celebrity actress. But then, somehow, I don't know, I don't remember, in my dream, the celebrity actress just ended up dead in my house. Completely not all her fault. She just showed up and was dead on our table. And then I heard the alarm, like a little sound that indicates something in the house has been opened, whether it be the front door, a window, what have it. So there was a little alarm, like something just opened. So I got up, I put on my jacket, and I went with my dad to look around, see, like, did something just open? In my dream, my dad went to the front door to check. Me, I went to the garage, and the moment I opened the garage door, someone poked their head in, and I just screamed my lungs out in my dream. Like, I completely got jump scared, because I opened my garage door. I did not expect a guy to just be standing there. In my dream, I also remember this random guy. He's holding what looks like a wrapped up baby in his arms, but his hand is all the way inside of the wrapping. So in my mind, I kind of come to the conclusion, his hand is all the way in there. There's no baby under there. He's probably holding a gun under there. So anyways, I'm just like, I try to close the garage door and lock him out because he's not about to come into my house. So I did that, and he just kind of just starts banging the door really hard, hitting the door, trying to get in. And I am just on the other side trying to push it closed, try to lock it. But then the guy in my dream, he just shouts, "I'm here for the body." Like he's here for the dead body on my table. But he wouldn't give me a chance, so like I just kept on trying to keep the door closed, trying to not let him in. Like he just kept on banging. And I remember in my dream, I shouted, "Yo, chill!" I even kind of signaled to my dad, "Dad, go get the gun. If not, just go grab me a knife." I don't know, it's kind of a random, crazy, stupid dream. And like, it's not anyone I know. It's not any celebrity face I recognize, just some random people in my dream. Oh yeah, so I did cut my nails. I didn't want to. I wasn't going to. I cut them earlier today because I realized one of them broke. You know how sometimes when you don't clip your nails and they get super long, they break easily? So that's what happened this morning. I was on my way to work. I realized there's a chunk of my nail missing, and you know, it's sharp on the edges, so damn. Now I gotta cut my nails, and I gotta cut my nails when I get to work. So I did just that. I went to work in the bathroom. I just sped ran cutting all of my nails. Yes, all of them, instead of just one finger where the nail was broken. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried only clipping one of your finger's nails and leaving the rest? It's such a weird feeling. It's really weird the way it feels. And I wasn't about to go through that the whole day, so I just sped ran through clipping all of them on the spot. Anyways, so let's see. Tonight I have 3 shows to talk about, and if I have any time left over, go over my school material. I also need to wake up early tomorrow, and I did not do the dishes yet tonight. Honestly, I might not do them tonight. Just because I gotta get to bed. Anyways, so let's get into it. We have Oshinoko Season 3, we have Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, and we have Wonder Man. So I finally watched the first episode. There's not going to be an Oshinoko discussion next time, I think. Because episode 3 of Season 3 just came out, and episode 4 is not out yet. So, for Oshinoko, I'll have to go over it as the show goes on, as episodes air. Monarch and Wonder Man, well, all those episodes are already out. And then we'll have to see if I get the chance to discuss Iron Lung, because I want to go and watch that in the next couple days. Alright, I really don't want to... I don't want to talk about the shows, because the sooner I talk about the shows, the sooner I get done with them, and that means the sooner I gotta go over my school material, and I don't want to do that. I have to, and I will, but I really just don't want to. Well, on the bright side, I go over the school material, maybe it'll make me sleepy and I'll go to bed early. Okay, let's just jump right in. So episode 3 of Oshinoko, we see our characters dressed up in their brand new cosplay costumes. You know, we see Ruby, Minami, Mimi, and we also meet a new character. Her name is Maya. She is a well-known cosplayer who Ruby has worked with in the past. I don't recall seeing her in previous episodes. Now, I know I screwed up when Ichijo showed up again and I didn't recognize him, but I really don't think we've met a Maya before. Anyway, so, turns out she is a very much adult cosplayer, you know? She posts some, you know, R18 cosplays, let's say that. Of course, they were censored throughout the show. Or just a little sequence of showing her, showing us examples of what her cosplays are like. The opening sequence is the same, so it seems like this is the set opening sequence for the season. I guess they just wanted to do something special for the first episode of the season. And I swear, haven't I heard this song before? Was this like the song for the opening sequence? Why does it sound so familiar? I swear I've heard it before. Like, the song is called Test Me. Where have I heard that before? Well, whatever. So, there's a big event going on. You know, it's mostly outdoors. Yoshizumi is there with his main director guy, and he's as loud and obnoxious as ever. So he sees Maya, you know, with a crowd around her wanting pictures, and he just kind of shouts like, "Hey, it's you!" Barges right in. "Oh, look at you! Hot! Sexy! I guess size does matter." What? And then we see a silent interview with her. It almost acted like, you know, those silent films in the past, where it's just text on the screen and then we see the actions happen. So, I feel so bad for Yoshizumi, because it seems like he's the one who asked the questions, and he was given those questions to ask. Because no way this nerd is the one who came up with those questions to ask. So, he was asking Maya some very inappropriate questions, some very un-okay questions. First of all, asking her, like, how much does she make doing this, you know, dressing up and cosplaying. That alone is already quite a strange question, which, good for her, she did not feel comfortable answering. Good for her. Unfortunately for her, that was like the tamest question she would be asked. She was asked 3 questions. What else was there? Because I remember the third one, and, you know, that was the big question. man, I don't remember the second one. She was asked, you know, how much does she make doing this? And then she was asked, have you ever had sex in costume? That's a strange question. I mean, there are things that people think, right? There are things that people think and question themselves, but doesn't mean you have to ask it out loud. Anyway, so the event's over, and you can see, I kind of was getting some weird vibes from her the whole time. Like she is some sort of villain in plain sight that we're just being introduced to. But no, nothing that serious. So the event's over. She parts ways with our three girls, and she goes home, and she, well, social media's a bitch these days, let me tell you. Because she sends out a very damaging tweet to the brand, to the show. Her tweet is just like, yeah, screw TV. I came into here expecting to cosplay these characters from this IP, but nope, I was told last minute to change it up. And while I was there, I was asked some very uncomfortable, degrading questions, which clearly shows me that they have no respect for the cosplaying community. You know, just very damaging stuff about her experience. So that kind of set a frenzy for not only the show, but also the whole community, the whole cosplaying community, and anyone who supports and enjoys the cosplaying community. To the point, well, Yoshizumi is, poor guy, he's the one who has to call and ask her, like, hey, we sincerely apologize, can you please take down the tweet? And you know what, good for her, standing on ground. She's just like, nope, I have no intention to, just because of the things I experienced when I was there. And yeah, you kind of can't feel, you kind of can't help but feel bad for Yoshizumi, because understandably, you would kind of think he would be the one to blame for this. He's not at fault, but we know how corporate companies are. They find the quote-unquote one who's responsible and make an example out of him. Because you can't tell me he wouldn't be the perfect victim to take the blame, you know? He was assigned to find cosplayers to bring to the event, and he was the one who asked out loud the questions, even if those were orders he was following. So there's this, like, board meeting that Yoshizumi is a part of, along with the main director guy. And, well, good for Yoshizumi. He finally sticks up for himself and kinda yells at his director boss for a bit. But then the director boss yells back. And I gotta say, kudos to the voice actor, because in his tone, felt so sincere, you felt like you were being yelled at for real. Like, his voice acting tone, yelling, really sounded like an actual person under a lot of stress yelling at one of his staff. Like, how dare you speak to me like that? But in the end, he does take full responsibility, because he does see the errors of his ways. So, you know what? Good for him. Good for him, at least. At least there's that. Yeah, we also see Yoshizumi pretty depressed, pondering if he's going to get fired or not. Like, why does life suck? You know, I'm not free, given the job I'm working at. And if I do become a director myself instead of an assistant director, well, shit. I got more things I got to deal with as well. I got other things to deal with. Yeah, directing is pretty tough. There's a lot of aspects that go into directing. Well, Ruby shows up to him with a pitch, and they go with it. So the pitch is basically, well, now that Ruby is a host on Aqua's little talking game show. I don't know, I think it's a game show. Not really a talk show per se. So yeah, now that Ruby has a host position on Aqua's game show, Ruby wants to clear the air about this whole drama. And even invites Maya to the set to be part of the episode. We do get a flashback to Ruby having lunch, it seems like, with Maya. And I gotta say, I do like how calculating Ruby is now. We didn't really get much from her character beforehand, but now she actually has depth to her. Because she's able to twist it to her own advantage. She is able to manipulate Maya in a way and say, okay, so Maya wanted that tweet to stay up to help others in the cosplaying community from avoiding the same treatment she had. But Ruby is able to spin it like, yeah, but if you keep that tweet up, it could discourage TV shows from hiring and bringing on cosplayers. That could hurt and damage cosplayers too, especially if they want to get more famous from their cosplays. And it seems like Maya didn't even consider that. So Ruby came up with this. To bring Maya to the show and clear the air. So first, Ruby tells to the audience the whole thing about copyright and permissions with the IP. Brings on the director himself, and he says what had happened. He tried to get permission. He assumed he got it, but by the time he checked, turns out he did not get the green light, and it was too late. It was too late, so he had to... he not only did he not make the right choice, but he kind of made the only choice that he could have. And that was tell the cosplayers to do something else last minute. So then we see other staff members pretty much give their story on the fact that Tokyo Blade, getting the rights to that is very notoriously difficult given the creator. So then we see Ruby introduce Kana to be her on-site host. And you can see Aqua's very not pleased for the fact that he is kind of in Kana's presence for the first time in quite a while. So we follow Kana as she goes and interviews Abiko. Come on, the fact that they were doing Tokyo Blade stuff, you knew that she was going to make an appearance at some point. So yeah, we see, first of all, I couldn't help but realize, like, Kana's just saying, I'm here at the Tokyo Blade studio. Isn't that kind of just doxing where they work? But who cares? So Kana has an interview with Abiko, and she pretty much goes into detail about why she's so picky. And she pulls out two examples. She pulls out two figurines of her characters as examples, and she's just like, I have to be super strict, because then people, they would want to develop and sell very voluptuous statues of my characters, or send very lewd body pillows of them. You know, she's very protective of her IP from things like, Rule 34. Then again, she has no control over that one. So yeah, basically companies would want to maximize the profits, because, let's face it, Gooners are a gold mine, and you know that's a fact. So companies would want to, taint the property for the sake of money. But Abiko will not allow that to happen, not with her characters. Yeah, but Abiko, she kind of goes crazy explaining everything, so Akana's just like, that's all the time we have now, bye. Yeah, so Ruby points the camera back at Maya. who is not satisfied yet. You know, she's just like, alright, fine, fine. Because Maya, she realized, damn, I didn't know you guys had it so rough on your end too. Now I feel less bad about it. So, fine, I'll take down the tweet, fine. But Ruby, she's calculating. So she's able to just write in Maya's face, are you satisfied? No? Well, maybe this will make you satisfied. Lights turn off, the backstage opens, fog comes out, and we see the director come out in a Princess Seiya cosplay. Oh, my eyes. Oh. And then, you know, the grown man in a princess cosplay, I mean, he can do what he wants, I suppose. He shouts his sincere apology, but Aqua, he's not a big fan of this. Oops. Because Aqua thinks Ruby is just making a serious moment into something fun, lessening the severity of the situation. But it actually works. Maya, she walks up to the director in his princess cosplay and is able to tell. First, she asks, why did you cosplay Princess Seiya? It's because when he read the Tokyo Blade manga, that was his favorite character. So now that he's in cosplay himself, he realized just how much work goes into a cosplay, like the actual costume itself. Because he spent nights for days just working on it. You know, he messed up on some points for the sewing, and she's able to see that. So he now understands how much work goes into a cosplay, and she asks the same question back to him. What if you were suddenly told that cosplay would no longer be required, despite you putting all the effort into it? You know, he too would feel completely torn apart inside. So now the director understands. He understands exactly what happened and what he did to her. Well, at least on the front of the whole, changing the cosplay last minute. At least he understands on that front. Whether he understands exactly the questions he was asking, we can assume yes. They didn't really tackle those questions again. Anyways, happy ending. Everyone's satisfied. Well, the workday is done. Aqua and Ruby are heading home. But Aqua's cunning. He's sharp as well. He asks his sister, hey Ruby, how much of that did you plan? No, he was like, how much of that were you a part of? In fact, how much of that did you plan? Ruby just turns around with a very sinister smile, acting all innocent, like, what do you mean? That's pretty much the episode there. I don't know, it was one of those, to me it was one of the weaker episodes, because this kind of feels like a plot line that, like, I don't care about. You know exactly the plot line I want to get further developed. I don't really care about this. But hey, if this event taking place furthers Ruby's, her goals in mind, then I guess. If it gets her higher up the food chain, then alright then. We'll talk about Monarch in just a moment. So how's everyone doing? You know, it's still rather cold these days. I heard the news say that the temperature's not gonna get it's not gonna get high to the point of any melting temperatures. In fact, I think coming up, sometime in the next week, we're going to get another big another big snow day. Okay, so let's just go into the next one. So, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. Really good show so far. Episode 3, I'm not gonna lie, the CGI in this episode was pretty excellent. So we open up with our 3 flashback characters. We see Lee, Bill, and Keiko. They're meeting up with the guy from the last episode who was Lee Superior, but now he is General, so he had a promotion. And we learn in this particular flashback, it is now the year 1954. So it has been 2 years since they met. 2 years since the Philippines. Which, is that where the episode took place? The last episode? What? Is that where the events took place last episode? The Philippines? Could have swore they said Japan. Or maybe I'm just misremembering. Anyway, so their plan is to ask General Puckett for basically the U.S. Army's assistance in their project. What is that project? Well, first of all, they have to show General Puckett what they found. And that is a giant fossilized, maybe, question mark, a giant footprint. How the hell did they haul it all the way to that little, you know, hangar that their base was at? I don't know. Where did they even find it? I don't know. I'm assuming future episodes will cover that, because the timeline, at least for the flashback scenes, are all over the place. Alright, so, General Puckett being shocked that a footprint of this size implies a creature of this size somewhere out there. So, Bill, he actually asks for, what was it, 150 pounds of uranium? You know, that's as much as they dropped on Japan, according to General Puckett. Why do they need 150 pounds of uranium? Basically, the US's entire supply at the time? Well, that's because Keiko was able to figure out that this thing isn't just attracted to radiation, it almost feeds on it. So, that much uranium, that much radiation, surely it can attract whatever creature created a footprint like this. So, they basically got the A-OK, we're gonna get you your uranium. And then we see exactly what they do with it later. Alright, back to present day. We see our characters, they escape from their little monarch, little retirement home, along with an adult, well, he was already an adult, an elderly Lee Shaw. They also make a point, later on in the episode, Lee would be like 90 years old at this point, assuming he's in his like early to mid 30s, in the 50s. So, being the year 2015, that would put him pretty much around, if not past, 90 years old. I gotta give it to him. In universe, this guy is pretty spry despite his age. Alright, so they get the hell out of there because they realize Monarch is aware and they're after him. So they get into the rental truck that they have, and well, Lee doesn't really know modern day cars anymore. He doesn't know, like, alright, where do I put the key in? Oh, there's a button to press to turn on the car now? So after some crazy driving from Lee, I gotta say too, adult Lee, like present day elderly Lee, kinda doesn't act like his young self, does he? I know they're played by two different actors, father and son, but besides the point, the character should be written the same. And the adult version, the elderly version, is much crazier than his younger self. And yes, my voice did just crack there. Anyways, so yeah, after bashing the car through the gate and getting away, well, let's come back to that later. Because we see in the past what's going on. They're at a beach over by, I don't know, what was the island they were on? I forget the name. It was kind of like Bikini Atoll, wasn't it? Or Atoll? Yeah, Bikini Atoll. They were on that island. Yeah, I was thinking, isn't that the SpongeBob Island? So they are there, our three characters as well as the military, and they realize that all the uranium they have, it's in the shape of a nuke, of a bomb. Keiko and Bill, they're very not happy about this, because they're just like, what the hell? This isn't what we wanted. So Lee talks to General Puckett. He's just like, sir, this isn't what we wanted. You know, we wanted all of that plutonium. Wait, no, uranium, but not exactly in bomb form. But General Puckett, being military, typical military man, he's just like, if a creature like this does exist, then the moment we see it, we will also take care of it on the spot. Because a creature like this is a threat to the nation, to the world, is it not? So he plans to use that bomb to kill Godzilla on the spot, or whatever creature they were thinking it was going to be. And I gotta say, maybe I'm just stupid. Doesn't this kind of not make sense? Because when they saw the bomb there was one military guy painting over the Godzilla logo already on it. But I'm just thinking, wait a second, how is there already a Godzilla logo on it if you don't even know what the creature looks like? How can you kind of symbolize on the bomb itself that this is for this creature if you don't even know what this creature looks like yet? But whatever. So back in present day, when our characters are all in the car, they are trying to figure out what to do next. You know, they're trying to go and find out what happened to Hiroshi. I kind of forget what they said. But, you know, Kate is still pissed off at her dad. Oh, no, wait, they were going over the Monarch information. So they discuss the fact that they knew Monarch knows about these monsters. The fact that Kate and Kentaro's father knows about these monsters. They worked for Monarch. Lee reveals that Monarch was meant to protect the people. Protect and warn people before these monster attacks happen. Well, that was before Monarch kind of went AWOL and went nuts and did something else. So yeah, Kate got super upset. Like, you knew about this thing? You could have warned us. You could have warned the people. But Lee's right. He just turns around and basically shuts that down on the spot. You were there, weren't you? During D-Day? You really think anything on this planet could have stopped that from happening? And we did try. We did try to stop it. So Kate's upset, she walks out the car, and then we realize she's on a boat. She's on a shipping freighter that is on its way to Korea. Why the hell are they going to Korea? Well, first of all, my question is, how the hell did they get that car onto the boat? Because, you know, on the boat, not only are there shipping containers with stuff inside, there's also a whole lot of cars. How was he allowed to get onto that? Like, I don't know, it's all glossed over. So right now, their goal is to go out and find where Hiroshi, what happened to him, where he's at. So, if he disappeared around Alaska, why are they going to Korea? Well, that's because Lee has an old friend in Korea who has what they need to go and find Hiroshi. Well, we get the small little conversation between Mei and Kentaro, not really important. It's just the fact that Mei is really upset with him, the fact that she's involved now, and that her whole life she had in Japan, it's all gone because of him. So Lee plans to dump all of the Monarch files that they found in the bag, you know, that was in the bag floating in the ocean for 40 years. He wants to just dump it in the ocean so that no one can find them again and that they can't be traced. Kentaro's against it, though. But after some very convincing arguments, he dumps it. Obviously, that's CGI, because there's no way they were going to allow the actors to really dump stuff into the ocean. So, like, once again, very good-looking CGI, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, so we wait for our characters to make it to Korea. In the flashback, we see our military characters on beach chairs, like literal lawn chairs on the beach, just waiting for something to show up. And they start picking up signals and noises, and they start seeing fins peeking out of the ocean water. It almost looks like armor. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of surprised to see Godzilla actually show up in the episode. I don't know, maybe it's my expectations for the show. I mean, so far my expectations have been vastly exceeded, but like, I know the deal with these shows. CGI is expensive, so they would like to use it as less as possible. They use the CGI as least as possible. But to my surprise, no, Godzilla fully showed up in this episode. It was a very brief scene, sure, but it still showed up nonetheless. So Godzilla showed up, emerged from the water, does his signature roar, and just walks towards the nuke. Everyone's stunned. A creature like this actually exists. Bill's just like, how did we miss this? How have we never seen this before? So the general and the rest of the army guys they are ready to set off that nuke. Well, Keiko's very not happy about this because they just discovered this ginormous creature. If we kill it now, we'll never get a chance to study it. And also, this is a giant animal still, right? So as they're counting down to the nuke going off, Keiko tries to run after it, but then Lee has to stop her. Because they even point out later on, let's say she's able to stop the nuke. All they'll do is deport her and just make the nuke go off again, just with her restrained. So her trying to stop the nuke would have done nothing. So the bomb goes off point blank in Godzilla's face, and everyone assumes Godzilla's dead. And I'm just thinking, how could you possibly assume that? Weren't you people told, literally told, that this thing feeds off of radiation? Whatever. So Keiko's super upset because she thinks this poor innocent giant monster just got killed. Obviously, we know Godzilla's not dead. We even saw this in Godzilla -1, where they nuked this thing, and it's a small piece of it is still left, slowly regenerating. And can you imagine for just a moment if they really did kill Godzilla? Well, in the future, when Ghidorah is unleashed, they are absolutely screwed. I kind of want to watch the movies again after this. Like, the movies that take place after the show, and see if I missed anything. Any callbacks to the show itself. Maybe a character showed up as a cameo and I completely missed it because I didn't watch the show yet. Imagine seeing Kate in the background and just having no idea. So anyways, back to present day. Our characters have made it to Korea, but they don't have passports or any IDs, so they get detained. But it turns out one of them who detained them was actually Lee Shaw's friend. What was his name? Crap, what was his name? It was like something like Duto. Excuse me. Or was it Duho? Was that his name? Yeah, Duho. There it is. Yeah, so we meet Duho. They take him, he takes them all the way to his place where he has a dinky little plane. And they plan to fly all the way from Korea to Alaska in that plane. I mean, I suppose it's not the most outlandish thing out there. I mean, we saw in Daryl Dixon, Ash and Carol, they took that dinky little plane all the way from America to France. I mean, they did have to refuel in Greenland. I assume these guys refueled somewhere off screen. Alright, so back in Japan, we see that Tim and the white lady, let's see, Duvall, I think was her name. We see Tim and Duvall, they greet, I guess, their boss. We actually don't learn her name just yet. But she's just like, did you know that Tim had no authorization to greenlight this little retrieval mission? Anyway, so Monarch is aware that Lee Shaw is kind of AWOL at the moment. And Duvall also gets a call informing her that she knows these guys are in Korea because facial recognitions of a couple of Americans who were, taken into custody and detained. So the two of them are now on their way to Korea to investigate. I mean, how on earth are they going to track them down now? They flew out of the country with kind of no tracking, right? Anyway, so our characters who are on their way to Korea in the plane, they reminisce a bit about Hiroshi. Kate and Kentaro, they're able to bond together. They're able to connect in a way, like remembering things that their father did. Like how he would use a knife to whittle to sharpen his pencil and just leave the shavings all over, pissing off Kate's mom. Lee saw Hiroshi as like a son to him instead of just like a nephew. So that's why Lee really wants to find Hiroshi as well. Anyways, using some information and stuff that May has on the Monarch files, they're able to track the trajectory, the rough location of where Hiroshi's plane was going. And so that's where they go. Well, they encounter a storm. Well, actually, no, before that. We get Kate. We get a small little conversation between Kate and Duho. I mean, it was a nice conversation. Basically, Kate doesn't know if she wants to find her father or not. Like, it would suck either way. But Duho basically just tells her, life is good. Cherish it. The good and the bad, just be grateful for things. And then during the plane ride, they encounter a storm, which kind of signals that they're close. They're close. So Lee takes over the pilot position and tells Kate to be a co-pilot. There's also a bottle underneath the chair that is just water, but they use it on the dash of the plane to be just like a navigator. You can tell the altitude, because they need to nosedive to get out of the storm. So they nosedive and then they see a spot where it's safe to land, so they land there. Where they did land, they just happened to find, very close by, the wreckage of the plane that Hiroshi was in. So they find the wreckage, the pilot's dead, but there's no sign of Hiroshi's body. Duho sees close by a tent put up. So they go into the tent, it's empty. But they see the shavings. the pencil shavings just laid around, and they know their father survived, and he's out here somewhere. Alright, while they're investigating the tent, Duho investigates other stuff around. He notices on the wreckage of the plane crash, there are claw marks on the side of the plane, so he's just like, oh shit, come on, let's go, let's get out of here, there's some sort of creature around. And sure enough, a creature does show up. It's not as big as the creatures we've seen elsewhere in this world, but it's still a wacky creature nonetheless. It kind of looks like the tentacle monster in Invincible. Just less green. And an ice type. Because Duho in the plane, he starts up the plane and it starts to get going. But then this monster is able to just claw off one of the wings, and then with its frost breath move, freezes the plane solid, freezing Duho as well, basically killing him and then crushing the plane, definitely killing him. So now our characters are stranded in Alaska. But wait, there's another scene, another flashback scene. So our characters, they're pretty upset at the fact that they seemingly killed Godzilla. But then Lee brings them the good news. The US military pretty much gave them a blank check, basically telling them to find more creatures like this. Like, what if there are more than just one? But because Keiko doesn't want to kill any more of these giant monsters, she doesn't want to tell the general if they do find them or not. But Lee, you know, despite agreeing, cannot lie to his general. So he agrees on one condition. He will only tell the general what they tell him. So if they don't tell Lee everything, he won't have everything to tell to the general. So in a way, it's not lying. I like that loophole. So they are on the search for more monsters. Which kind of explains, you know, the position we see them in the first episode. They're looking around for radiation. And they found a place where some sort of creature has made its nest. Now, unfortunately, we kind of know the fate of Keiko, but that's besides the point. And that's pretty much it. Oh, you know what's one detail I do like? When Godzilla showed up, we also saw this like old-timey found footage real quality of Godzilla. I like that. Very creative. Alright, give me just a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Ooh. Just now, my dad was asking me how many things do I have set up in here while I'm in here? Because he's thinking, how much internet do I use when I'm in here? Because he was like, the TV just blacked out and it just came back on. So, like, how much internet you using in there? Oh, right. Today was Vulpix Community Day in Pokemon Go. I didn't count how many shinies I got. I think I got 2 shiny Alolan Vulpix with the background and 1 Kanto Vulpix with the background. I also got a strange looking shiny Vulpix to start off with the day. It was a Diglett. So, man, what are you up to? Did you guys hear that? You just chillin'? Yeah, you're watching my stream for once. I thought you forgot all about little old me. You know what's absolute bullshit that I had to do today? I had to get gas. Now, let me elaborate. The fact that, well, my sister uses the car so much more than I do. Thus, you know, she uses more gas than I do, and yet I'm the one who has to go and pay for the gas that she uses up. Because remember what I said before? Isn't it stupid for a family of 4 to take 3 cars to go to the same place to work? Doesn't that just not make sense? I don't really take my car out to places that much. Every now and then there will be something I need to go out and buy, or going out to hang with friends. That doesn't happen too often, though. Majority of the time when I actually have to drive my car, it's to drive it home from work. And, well, there's an exception on Mondays, because I actually do need the car early in the morning. And let me tell you, gas is expensive. Everything's expensive these days. Oh, you want to know something else? So, someone I chat with on Discord, I've been talking to this guy for quite a few years now. He recently just hasn't been replying anymore. I was kind of assuming he was busy, because he did tell me he's going back to school. But then I got a DM from someone else earlier today, and he's just like, "Yo, man, my old account seems to have gotten banned. It's me." And, you know, you have to be a little bit You have to be a little bit cautious on the internet. I'm just like, how do I know this is you and not an imposter? You know how on Discord you're able to see how long someone has had their Discord account for? Well, I see here the person's original account was from 2017, and then the newer account is from 2023. So if he just lost his main account, why does he have an alt that wasn't made recently? Why did he already have another account? So I asked him this. It's like, why do you have a second account on the ready? And he's just like, for this exact reason, in case my first one gets banned. And I'm just like, that's a pretty convenient answer. Why do you have a second one? In case the first one goes bye-bye. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty convenient answer. Well, we're in the same server, which seems... It seems legit. It does seem like it's really him. I mean, there's no profile picture. The name is different. I don't know, I'm being cautious. But I'm pretty sure it's him. Anyways, so we have one more show to go over. Let's talk about Wonder Man. Honestly, not too much to go over with Wonder Man. At least not yet. At least with the first episode. Alright, so this is another Marvel Spotlight project. Remember that? I think the last time we had a Marvel Spotlight was Echo. Or was Agatha one too? I don't remember. I know for a fact that Echo was a Marvel Spotlight, and that series sucked. But at the time, it was the only thing branded with the Marvel Spotlight. So I'm thinking, what happened to that? Did they forget about their own concept? If it's really him, tell him to message you on the account that got banned. Well, that's the thing. He kind of can't. He has no access to it. So I asked him what happened to his other account. He replied, I was in a server with a bunch of liberals the other night, and I think they reported me. I asked him, did you say something to get reported? He replied, who knows with them? They always get offended over everything. You know what? That's true. That is very true. Anyway, so this is another Marvel Spotlight project. So the opening scene, we see a young Simon Williams in the theater with his dad watching the original Wonder Man movie. And the movie looks very, like, 60s quality. So I doubt this is actually the 1960s for real. Because let's say he's anywhere from, like, 8 to 10 years old at this moment. Well, in present day, he would be like mid-70s. And he's very much not mid-70s, so I'm assuming this is just a rerun in a theater. So we just see that a young Simon Williams is completely enthralled by what he sees on the big screen. And can you blame him? That's the point of movie magic. And then we cut to present day, whatever the hell year it is, because who knows, ever since Endgame, Marvel has sucked with their continuity. So, Wonder Man himself, being played by, I'm gonna butcher his name, Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Look, it's Black Manta himself. You know we're gonna get some awesome, very well acted moments when he's on board. So we see a grown-up Simon Williams getting ready. You know, he's prompting himself up like, you got this, man. You already got the role, now all you got to do is kill it. So then he is asked out of his trailer to come on board set. What set? Well, he is on the set for an episode of American Horror Stories. So, Simon, he's already got the role of some sort of professor in the episode. And seemingly, the student comes up, turns into a monster, bites his head off, and he dies. It's like, dude, you had one job. And that was to act and die. I assume your role in the episode would have been like, would have been like 3 minutes, if even. You have a conversation with your student turns into a monster, bites your head off, and you die. Bro, it was super simple. But Simon, he overthinks it. He just picks apart everything in the scene, like, maybe I should do this. Do you think this is what the characters had as a relationship before? Maybe I should say this. Maybe the lighting should be here. Maybe I should die over there. Kind of does too much, and then the showrunner basically gets one of the staff members to be like, right, we think we're going to cut you from the episode. All right, folks, that's a wrap on Simon Williams. So Simon, due to his overthinking, he kind of screwed himself up from the project. Which, like, damn. You know? When it comes to roles in Hollywood, it's very much eat or be eaten. You know? For you to get a small role in just what seems like one episode in American Horror Stories, yeah, that's better than nothing. So anyway, Simon returns home where he sees that his girlfriend is moving out because it's just not working between them. So poor guy, he lost his role and he just lost his girl. So what does he do? He goes to the theater to try to just relax and take his mind off of things. While in the theater, there's someone speaking really loud. So when he goes up and tries to tell him to please be quiet, he turns around and realizes, hey, you're Trevor Slattery. Weren't you the Mandarin? I love the callback. He's just like, yes, I was the Mandarin, but that was like 10 years ago. And no, don't believe any sort of conspiracy theory you see on Reddit. I'm not part of the Illuminati. Which, interesting, we know the Illuminati exists, just not on this Earth. Do I get anything from Prime subs? No. But feel free to use them anyways. Oh, hold on. Done? Alright, thanks. So Simon overhears Trevor's phone call where he has this major role coming up. A small detail for later on. So they shut up, they enjoy the movie, and then once the movie's over, they walk out together and have a nice chat. He's just like, hey, what's that role that you were talking about? I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to steal it. I'm curious. So Trevor says his role is for the next Wonder Man remake. Simon, being a huge fan of Wonder Man, he's like, what? They're remaking Wonder Man? Not just they. By Von Kovac himself, the original creator of Wonder Man. So Simon's just like, oh shit, I gotta be in this movie. So he goes back to, so I'm not too sure what the relationship is here. Maybe that's his sister or best friend, because we literally just saw he had a girlfriend who looked nothing like this woman. I don't know, maybe it's his sister. They didn't clarify it yet in this episode. So we see Simon go to some building. He just barges right in, even to a straight up business meeting where he speaks to, I think her name was Janine? No, Janelle. And he's just like, why didn't you tell me that they were remaking Wonder Man? I gotta be in this movie. And he's just like, oh, you're serious? Well, the casting auditions, today's the last day. Sorry, I can't help you do anything. Well, I'm gonna go to dinner. But stupidly enough, this lady left her laptop on and didn't even put it to sleep mode or anything. It was just straight up still on. So Simon, he just snoops around her email and realizes, ooh, this is where the auditions are being held. And then Simon kind of pulls a Jessica Jones, makes a phone call while just rushing in his car over. Just like saying what he needs to say to kind of manipulate events so that he can be put on the casting list. Or the auditions list, I should say. So Simon shows up. He signs an NDA. And then he also has to sign another form to basically say, sign this to confirm you have no superpowers of your own. Because remember, this is the Marvel Universe we're talking about. People with powers is just a dime a dozen these days. So he looks at this very dirty looking hallway and sees like two dozen guys waiting to audition for the role. And Simon, waiting for his turn, he makes notes. He makes notes on the actual script that he has to memorize in like 10 minutes. But, you know, he's kind of panicking. We also see a quick zoom into his face where it almost seems like some sort of powers are manifesting. We don't know just yet. But hey, we realize that Trevor is the one auditioning at the moment, and he is killing it. So Trevor, after his audition, he walks out. He sees Simon, and he's just like, follow me. They go to the bathroom, where Trevor genuinely wants to help. You know, Simon's just like, you're trying to get into my head. You're trying to downplay me so that you can ensure this role for yourself. And Trevor, being what seems like a genuine guy, he's just like, no, I want to help you. You know, there are still people out there that genuinely want to help others and watch everyone else succeed. So he looks over Simon's notes and realizes, oh, it's too much. There's too much. All of these notes are garbage. No offense. What you need to do is you just need to play the role. You don't need to overthink it. You don't need to think about the backstories. You don't need to think about the relations. Just go in there and say the lines. Play the role. He even gives us a little bit of advice. When you go in there, before you start, exhale all the air out of your lungs. Something, your mind will go into shock. And then you won't be able to think. It'll just be natural instinct. I'm not sure if that works, actually. So Simon tries it because it's his time for the audition. He goes in, and maybe, I'm not gonna lie, maybe it's because I didn't see any other auditioners. I didn't see anyone else's audition. Dude's audition was kind of bland, kind of basic. But hey, because he's the main character, obviously we know that he's gonna be chosen. So there must be some sort of spark, some sort of magic behind his performance that I'm not seeing. Oh, did I mention yet that Von Kovac is being played by Zlatko Burek? I don't know if I said his name right, but we just saw him in the Superman movie. And the only other movie I know him from is 2012. Alright, so Simon and Trevor, they go out for a drink. They want to stay in touch. Well, it's time for Simon to go. Right as Trevor orders a salad. So they stay in touch. As Trevor is about to dig into his salad, literally with a knife and fork, he gets a phone call. And we don't see who's on the other side of the line. But whoever it was just basically talks with Trevor and is like, "Did you do it? Is Simon buying your act?" He's like, yes, he has the role, or he should. So everything was set up. Because whoever was on the other end of the line, he's just like, Simon Williams is super powered. He is very dangerous. He must be in my custody. So whoever is suspicious of Simon Williams has Trevor Slattery on their payroll, manipulating him. Ooh, pretty big revelation for literally just the first episode. And you know who I think it is? What was the character's name again? Well, I just looked up the character's name because I swear to God I can never remember this guy's character's name. I feel like it's probably P. Clary. That's his name. It might be Clary. You know, the guy we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home and Miss Marvel. Remember that? Remember that show? Remember how he was in it? Did he show up in something else? Wasn't there another project he was in? Or was that it? Just those two? Did I say Miss Marvel or did I say The Marvels? You know, it might be Homeland Security who's after Simon. But we will have to wait and see. And, for the most part, that's it. Wonder Man. That's the first episode. I mean, it was okay. I already know for a fact that this show isn't the typical superhero show. There's not going to be a lot of, you know, a lot of fist throwing, a lot of fighting action sequences, a lot of CGI battles. It's literally mostly a show based on a struggling actor who happens to have powers. I'm actually not too sure what Simon Williams' powers are. I know next to nothing about this character. I mean, do I even need to point out the fact that they completely race-bent the character? Wonder Man is white in the comics. Hell, Wonder Man is white in the fictional show or film. But Simon Williams, you know, he auditioned to play the white character. Well, Hollywood loves that these days. I mean, for God's sake, just look at the show we ended up getting. But you know what? I kind of don't care that they race-bent Simon Williams, Wonder Man. You know why? Because I don't really care about this character. Like, Wonder Man who? You know, I'm not going to say Wonder Man's not exactly going to return in Avengers Doomsday, alright? Like, this, if Iron Man was previously like a C-tier character before the MCU, Wonder Man is going to be like, I don't know, and I almost said S-tier, but no, that's even higher up. Like a, I don't want to go down to say a Z-tier, but he's pretty obscure. He's pretty not that well known. Where shiny? I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Alright, well, there you go. The first episode of Wonder Man. It was okay. You know? Like I said, I know this is going to be a slower, more character-driven story. I don't know. From the buzz I'm hearing online, people are saying this is one of the best Marvel projects to ever release. I kind of have my doubts about that. But I shall see. I'm only one episode in out of 8, I'm pretty sure. I shall see. Because I'm trying to think. The Marvel Studios shows that they've been putting out, which one have been bangers? WandaVision was pretty good. You know, I enjoyed it. Falcon and Winter Soldier was okay. It wasn't amazing, it wasn't awful, it was okay. It's on the better side? Really? Have you finished it? Loki was amazing. I loved Loki. What if only the first season was good? Seasons 2 and 3 sucked. What other Marvel shows that they put out? Agatha was surprisingly pretty good. You were talking about Wonder Man? Yeah, did you finish Wonder Man? I gotta wait and see, because, you know, I'm only one episode in. You read that super late. Oh. Yeah, Agatha was pretty good. Echo was absolute garbage. Secret Invasion was garbage. What else? What else did they do? Miss Marvel was okay. What other Marvel shows have they put out? Oh yes, Ironheart, of course. It was horrible. Oh yeah, Moon Knight. Very good. I like that. Really wish we got a season 2 by now. And Daredevil Born Again, season 1 was a mess. But I'm hoping season 2 will be better. Marvel Zombies was underwhelming. Oh, speaking of which, you know what I haven't talked about yet? I haven't covered the opening sequence for Monarch. Because I swear, the opening sequence for that show kind of gives me X-File vibes. As well as the theme kind of makes me think of the Iron Fist opening. Oh, right, Hawkeye too. I like that. I enjoyed that. It's a shame they kind of did Jeremy Renner dirty with season 2. We could have gotten a season 2 by now. Imagine that. We really could have, but they decided to completely shaft Hawkeye. They just didn't want to pay Jeremy Renner as much, and Jeremy Renner said, screw you guys. Oh, right, She-Hulk. Horrible. Isn't it crazy that majority of the shows Marvel Studios has put out were misses instead of hits? Let me see. Let me count. How many of the shows I would say were hits? And I'm going to be very generous. I'll say WandaVision was a hit. Do I dare give it to Falcon and Winter Soldier? Debatable. WandaVision. Loki. I'm not going to give it to What If, because 2 out of 3 sucking? No, that's not a passing grade. Falcon and Winter Soldier was good in your opinion? I enjoyed it, as long as you just don't look into the issues. Fine, I'll give Falcon and Winter Soldier a hit, but that's a very generous, very generous labeling. So let's see, WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki. That's already 3 good shows. I'm surprisingly gonna give it to Agatha All Along. Like, that actually was a pretty good show, if you overlook the woke bullshit that they injected into it. Daredevil, I'm hesitant, because we know what happened with Season 1. We know Season 2 and onward is gonna be peak, at least it better be. So I'm gonna reserve for Daredevil Born Again just for now. Oh yeah, Moon Knight. Hawkeye. Can you tell I'm stalling so I don't have to go into my school material? Oh, let's see. What other things can I talk about to stall so I don't have to talk about my school stuff? Well, February 14th is coming up, and I don't know about you guys, but that's a normal, ordinary day with nothing special going on for me. Anyways, I'm looking for Tuesday night to try to go and see Iron Lung. Oh, beginning of this year is so busy. Especially for the shows and stuff to watch. 4 shows coming out soon. 3 shows I'm currently watching at the moment. I got Iron Lung out, which I really want to go and watch for various reasons. And yeah, I just looked up the date to be sure. Ready or Not 2, Readier or Notter, March 27th. Doesn't anyone else feel bad for Samara Weaving to constantly be compared to Margot Robbie? Doesn't anyone else feel bad for her? If you look at the Moist Critical video for Ready or Not, he even says himself, this movie stars Margot Robbie. Or so I thought, until I realized, no, this is a completely different woman. They look so similar. Alright, enough stalling. Let's open the study material. Ugh. No, please, don't make me do this. Fine. I've had all week to look into week 3's material, and the week is almost up. Okay, so this one, supply piping distribution. Look at the supply piping characteristics chart. Note the strengths and weaknesses and the common types as found in the chart. Okay. From the chart I see in front of me, there's type M painted in red, type L painted in blue, type K painted in, no, that says printed, not painted. Printed in green. Anyways, let's see. Type M printed in red for general plumbing, not for underground, available in hard temper only. Type L printed in blue for general plumbing and heating, available in soft or hard temper. Type K printed in green for underground service as well as plumbing, heating, and gas lines, available in soft or hard temper. Type K is thickest and normally used for underground. Type L is color-coded blue and may be used underground. Type M is the most commonly used and is thinnest. Copper is thought to last indefinitely unless in acidic conditions. Oh, so you know what? Speaking of acidic conditions, so earlier today I came home a little bit early because there was a couple of items I need to prepare. My mom wanted some fried rice for dinner tonight, but we didn't have any leftover rice, so I had to really quickly come home, cook the rice, and then what I did was I just, well, flattened it as much as I can, and I stuck it in the oven. That way it could dry out a little bit. And while I was waiting for the rice to cook, I made some guac. Because I had avocados, and you don't need me to list out all the ingredients for guac. I used half a lemon's worth of juice in my guac. And then later on, I realized something else I could use the lemon juice for. Because I also made the banana muffins that my family devours in a single night. My sister was like, next time you should make 2 batches. I'm just like, why? Because, well, tonight we're probably going to eat like 3 on the spot. She may take like 2 to the condo to eat for herself, and that leaves 1 already. It's like, damn, I made one batch of 6. And well, there was something I wanted to try to go along with my banana muffin things. So recently, one of my dad's friends gifted us a bag of cherries. Now, cherries are very much not in season right now, so I don't know where he got his hands on these. And, I don't know, as a kid, I flat out hated cherries. I was not a big fan of how they tasted at all. And now that I've eaten them again, it's like, what did I hate so much about these? These don't taste that bad. You know, for years, I never ate a single cherry just because I didn't really like the taste of it. And then I tried it again, it's like, it's not that bad. What did I hate these for? Now, don't expect me to ever come to that sort of feelings for cucumber. I hate cucumber. But yeah, something I wanted to try with the cherries we had was I wanted to make almost like a syrup glaze. And I tried that earlier today. And not gonna lie, it didn't come out exactly how I thought it would taste. Because what I did was, well, first of all, I cut all the cherries we have left. I cut them all in half to get rid of the seed, the pit. And then I blended them up with a little squeeze of lemon juice. I don't know if I should have added the lemon juice. I figured I had half a lemon left. May as well try it for something. So I squeezed a little bit, just a little bit of lemon juice. I blended it up and then I strained it to get all the juice. I was going to use the pulp for something else, but it seems like my family threw it away. So then I reduced down the juice with a couple teaspoons of sugar. Don't want to overdo it. I also didn't have that much juice to begin with. So I reduced it down on a medium-low simmer until it was thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. I let it cool down, and I think I used too much sugar because it is cavity-inducing, teeth-rottingly sweet. It's like, oops. I even thought I used less sugar than I should have, but never mind. This is absurdly sweet. And it also tastes kind of bitter. I wonder if that was due to the lemon juice or what happened. Because you would think it's just cherries and sugar. There should be no hint of bitterness to it. I even strained off all the pulp and skin. So I think next time I just will not add the lemon juice. I'm going to assume the lemon juice is what caused it to be bitter for some reason. I don't know, I had half a lemon and I thought maybe let's try it. That's a pretty long-winded that's a long-winded discussion on me trying not to go through my school material. To say basically, I came home, I made fried rice, I made guacamole, I made banana muffins, and I even tried to make a cherry-flavored glaze to go with it. Anyways, there's a whole diagram here, which I'm not going to go into. Flare connections. Flare fittings are sometimes used on supply lines to small appliances such as ice makers, dishwashers, and humidifiers. There's a space between humidify and ers. And then there's a pipe picture here. Brass at bottom right, copper elbow, and threaded fitting. Alright, there's a picture of a toilet here. Compression fitting. So this is kind of showing how the water goes into your back septic tank into the toilet. There's a supply tube, compression nut, compression ring, cross-section of what that looks like. Toilet shut-off valve. You know, that little handle you find at the back of your toilet, you never know what it's for. Anyways, galvanized steel pipes. Generally last 40 to 60 years. Connections are threaded, welded is not permitted. Hot side, horizontal lines, and threaded connections normally fail first. Stainless steel was used in the 60s and 70s, 6-7 again, but has short life expectancy. Alright, copper and galvanized steel most common. In most areas, copper is the most common supply piping material. Up until the 1950s, galvanized steel was the most common. The steel available in North America prior to the Second World War was typically better quality than the galvanized steel used from 1939 on. The better quality galvanized steel piping lasted 40 to 60 years. The more recent galvanized steel piping is lasting more like 40 years. Always check for steel on the main and second floor plumbing fixtures. Generally speaking, wherever you find galvanized steel supply piping, it will be close to the end of its life. Welded steel pipe not permitted. Galvanized steel pipe has threaded connections. In residential supply plumbing applications, welded steel is not permitted. The galvanized steel piping can be identified by the zinc coating, which has a silver, flaky appearance on the surface of the steel. And then there's a very gross picture here of what looks like piss coming out of the sink. You can sometimes tell by the color of the water. So the piping has contaminated the water in this disgusting picture. There's a lot to read here. Galvanized steel pipe. Rusting of galvanized pipe can greatly reduce water pressure and will eventually cause leaks as rust creates holes in the pipe walls. Problems are likely to occur soonest on pipes carrying hot water, horizontal pipes, and at threaded (thinner) sections. Rusted through as threaded connections. Galvanized steel pipe rusts from the inside out. The pipe rusts through as its threaded connections first in many cases. This makes sense because some of the pipe has been cut away to create threads in the pipe. Cutting the threads into the pipe does two things. It reduces the pipe wall thickness where the threads are. It exposes steel that has not been zinc coated or galvanized. Every time I hear galvanized, I just think Galvatron. Watch those threaded connections. Hot side horizontals fail first. With galvanized steel piping, the rusting which occurs on the inside of the pipe is a chemical reaction. All chemical reactions move faster with higher temperatures. It's logical, then, that the hot water piping will rust more quickly than the cold water piping. Must be a lot of rust happening in winter then. This often shows up as weaker pressure and flow on the hot side than the cold side. Rust also tends to build up more quickly on horizontal runs of pipe than vertical. As a result, the flow is often much more restricted through horizontal piping. Here I am talking about all these horizontal piping. Can we talk about how horrible my reading is? Partial replacement. Where water pressure is very poor and only partial replacement of the supply piping is planned, it makes most sense to do the horizontal runs rather than the vertical, and it may make more sense to do the hot than the cold if both cannot be replaced. Red brass and yellow brass. The red brass piping, which has a color very similar to copper, is superior to the yellow brass, which has a lighter yellow color. The yellow brass is an alloy of copper and zinc that is about 85% copper. The yellow brass is about 65% copper. The life expectancy of red brass may be 50 to 60 years. The life expectancy for a yellow brass system may be 20 to 40 years. You know what? That's still not that bad. 20 to 40 years. White deposits. When you see white crystal deposits on the exterior of brass piping, this usually means the pipe is corroded on the inside and close to the end of its life. Brass looks like galvanized steel. Since both steel piping and brass piping systems are older, it's very likely that the pipe will either have been painted or covered with years of dirt. Since galvanized steel piping is much more common, it is natural for people to assume that all threaded piping is galvanized steel. But brass piping looks essentially the same until you scratch to it. Oh, jeez. It says scratch it too. Christ almighty. Until you scratch it to reveal the yellow or orange surface. Another way to differentiate between brass and galvanized steel is with a magnet. The galvanized steel will attract the magnet, while the brass will not. Brass and galvanized steel are the only supply piping materials with threaded connections. Brass was usually installed in more expensive homes. Man, I'm gonna go into the next mansion I see, or the next mansion I enter, be like, wow, look at those brass pipings. All right, the same picture that we've seen before. Actually, you know what? This is the same picture on my assignment. Did you guys hear when I said that? A couple weeks ago when my first assignment was due, it turns out I did the wrong assignment. I was ready to hand it in, but then I took one more look and I realized, oh, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Well, at least I have that assignment done for around 2 weeks from now when it is due. Alright, so this picture here, dielectric union. A dielectric union should be used when joining galvanized steel to copper pipe. The insulating sleeve and washer separate the two dismisor metals to prevent corrosion. All right, galvanic action, in all caps, between dissimilar metals, normally on copper and galvanized steel connection. Galvanized steel is the sacrificial metal. Dielectric unions separate the two metals and flow of electrons. Alright, dissimilar metals. Corrosion on copper piping may or may not indicate a serious problem. Where copper piping is directly connected to galvanized steel piping, corrosion usually occurs due to galvanic action. The steel tends to be the sacrificial metal, and it will corrode first and most dramatically. This kind of corrosion also occurs where copper pipes contact sheet metal ductwork, or where copper pipes are supported by iron or steel hangers, for example. Alright, dielectric connectors. There are special connectors made to reduce the galvanic action and corrosion of the steel piping by the copper. These fittings separate the two materials physically and reduce the flow of electrons between the two metals. In many cases, this is a short-term issue since the galvanized steel piping is probably close to the end of its life anyway. Alright, another gross picture. Rusting at connections between galvanized steel and copper. Can see evidence of rust from under pipe insulation. Ooh. Copper pipe too close to the duct, and there's a picture of a glowing pipe. Another pipe next to some wall insulation. This does not show any reaction, but should be pointed. A copper or brass clamp would be ideal. Another picture here with what looks like a detergent bottle right in the way of the picture. Rusting at connection of different pipes. Oh, this picture has a lot of things to read. It looks like something... It actually has like a Christmas vibe to it. How ridiculous does that sound? Alright, so this picture I'm looking at. Removed exterior siding to access plumbing. Pipes on exterior walls in cold climates will be prone to freezing and leaking. Also talk about pipe insulation for the purpose of prevent freezing and keep from sweating. Pipe insulation. Supply piping inside the home may be insulated for a few reasons. 1. If the piping is in an area where freezing may be experienced, the piping should be insulated to protect from freezing. Alternatively, a heat tracer cable should be used to protect the pipe from freezing. 2. Cold water pipes may also be insulated to keep them from sweating and damaging interior finishes below them. Alright, energy efficiency. Number 3. Some people insulate hot water supply piping in an effort to improve energy efficiency. This is useful where the heat loss from the piping would not help to heat the living space. 4. Insulating the hot water pipes may deliver hot water more quickly when a fixture is turned on and may reduce the energy consumption of the water heater. Oh, that is a big paragraph to read, and that's where I'm going to stop for today. Well, this is slide 20 of 50, so we're already like 40% done. Although, the majority of this was just pictures. Ooh, I see another slide with a lot to read. You know what's something I think about sometimes? You know, so this winter in particular has shown me just how cold it can get up here. And that has me thinking, well, if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, at first I was thinking, if it ever does happen, then being up here in Canada during the winter would be an easy survival guarantee. Because the walkers, they're all going to freeze solid and be in place. There's no risk of, you know, being snuck up upon. But this winter is just like, never mind, you know? It's kind of like having the mindset you can just swim away during a tsunami. No, you have to keep in mind, zombie apocalypse happens, there's no heat at all. The interiors would be freezing. So unless you want to keep your winter jacket on 24/7 for like 4 consecutive months, you kind of can't survive the cold temperature up here. You know? We can't exactly hibernate like certain animals. You would probably have to migrate. Unless you really want to risk it, you know? Which, I don't know, if a zombie apocalypse does happen, not gonna lie, I might actually risk it. All the walkers would be frozen, but then there would be the issue of staying warm and also food. It's gonna be real hard to grow crops in the dead of winter, and also not a whole lot of animals to hunt during winter. Oh, you want to know another thing that would absolutely make surviving in the winter unlivable? The snow. You might think, well, no shit. But what I mean by that is, there's no way to shovel the snow unless you want to grab a shovel yourself. Because I'm just thinking, man, if the city of Toronto did not have giant, heavy cars to clean the roads, the whole city would probably be under snow by now. No heat whatsoever, no movement, no cars to shovel the roads. Yeah, the whole street would probably be buried by now. Damn, wouldn't that be nice to see? Just imagine that for a second, just for once. Just for one winter. You see maybe just one street untouched. No shoveling, no humans walking over it, nothing. Just the snow piling higher and higher. Wouldn't that be cool to see? Just how high it could get, especially with the storms. There should be another storm coming up in a couple days. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, I'm about to call it for tonight because I do need to go to bed. Let's face it, I lie down, I'm not going to fall asleep for a while. But I can at least try. I'll do one last encounter, and then I'll call it. Alright, well, I'll see you guys next time.